Hello and welcome. I'm Lanre Lasese and I'm here with some of the highlights of legislative activities from the Nigerian Parliament. Now, this week, the Senate had a lot on its plate, from considering the death of 3 female students in Queen's College, Lagos, to the Senate receiving the final report of its committee, which investigated the humanitarian crisis in the northeastern part of the country. In the House of Representatives, the scarcity of Nigerian passport booklets was considered and some resolutions taken on that matter. Let's commence with the motion on the death of 3 students.
Many may not have known Vivian Osunyi, Bithia Itulwa, and Praise Shodipo, but they were students at Queen's College, Lagos, whose young lives were cut short prematurely this year. Between February and March, in less than a 2-month period, Queen's College, Lagos lost 3 students. The students died from an infection contracted from the school premises. The matter was brought before the Senate at plenary.
The Senate is dismayed that factors which prompted the closure of the school were such that vigilance and good management could have helped avoid such issues as severe overpopulation and poor care for the student population, part of which reportedly resulted in the death of 3 young girls. Saddened that by the end of January 2017, the sick bay in the school, a facility put in place to provide mostly basic and preventable care for children, was full to capacity with hundreds of sick children complaining of similar sickness, presenting symptoms of stooling, vomiting, fever, pains in the orifice and various skin infections.
The state of Queen's College is pitiable. It is, as described by the last speaker, disgraceful and shameful. The college is more of a symbolic of a concentration camp than it is a public institution.
The Senate President wants a wide-scale investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of the 3 students.
We will also ensure that we look into the idea of a public hearing to find out what really happened, who were those that were responsible for it, and if there's any evidence of any criminal negligence, that whoever involved should be prosecuted.
The Senate directed the Minister of Education to urgently upgrade the infrastructure in the schools and provide safe water and sewage treatment, as well as expand the boarding facilities to decongest the dormitories. The upper chamber has also mandated the chairman of a committee on appropriation to make adequate funding in the 2017 budget to upgrade the infrastructure in Queen's College. However, the point remains that 3 young students have died in what many say was avoidable circumstances and can never return.
A lot has happened since the Senate came out with its interim report on its investigation into the humanitarian crisis in the Northeast. The Senate ad hoc committee, which investigated the matter, has now submitted its final report. Here's how the consideration went in plenary.
The interim report on the humanitarian crisis set off a series of events which cumulatively led to the suspension of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Babachir Lawal. The committee has concluded its investigations and the chairman is presenting the report to the Senate. He says Mr. Babachir Lawal used his position as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which was in charge of the Presidential Initiative for the Northeast, to award contracts to a company he had an interest in.
The stereotype thinking was that the invasive plants were cleared for 272, but in actual sense, it is 530 million naira was used to clear grasses. You can imagine how grass costs in Nigeria. That the Presidential Initiative on Northeast took undue advantage of the provisions of Emergency Situation Contract Award in the Public Procurement Act 2007 to inflate contracts. Also, contracts were awarded to companies belonging to top government officials, cronies, and close associates. For example, Roller Vision Engineering incorporated in 1990 with RC number 159855 at Corporate Affairs Commission, Abuja, to carry out information technology services anchored by Engineer David Lawal.
The committee also discovered that since it was established, the Presidential Initiative for the Northeast was paying less attention to the critical needs of internally displaced persons, as a bulk of resources were used for issues that did not address the immediate needs of internally displaced persons. Rather, it was spent on issues that took care of the interest of the officials and associates.
None of the bidders of all the contracts awarded by Pine possesses the mandatory requirement stipulated in Section 16 of the Public Procurement Act 2007 and were therefore not eligible to participate in procurement processes.
The Senate recommends that relevant agencies should investigate why contract benefiting companies paid over 500 million naira into Roller Vision Engineering Limited, a company in which Mr. Babachir Lawal has interest in.
From there, I move into the civil service.
Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed Mr. Stephen Ucheni from Kogi State and Mr. Sulaiman Hassan from Gombe State as ministers. The Senate confirmed them after their screening by lawmakers.